one of the hottest miniseries this past year has been Mrs. America, which chronicles the battle to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment into the U.S. Constitution. And one of the standouts and the immense cast in that is Sarah Paulson, who plays Alice, who's a composite character, and she joins us here today.
I hate the composite character, Charlie Bright, but it's a fact. But I have to say, it's like, Rose Byrne is Gloria Steinem, Uzo Aduba is Shirley Chisholm, Sarah Paulson as the composite character. And it's always a little like, womp womp, but you know.
But you do have, I think, arguably, probably one of the greatest collection of scenes that's available there. I don't think I've ever seen a trip like that.
I think the thing I did have going for me that the other gals didn't, which is that my character is the only character who has a real arc where she does not end where she began in the series. And that was a kind of exciting thing to play, especially someone who is so different from me in terms of her political orientation and her views and how she's chosen to live her life. And then by the end of it, she's had this real awakening. And that was a really interesting thing to play. It was. I didn't get to have my cool wig. Like, I had a wig, but it wasn't like a Gloria Steinem wig. It wasn't like a Bella Abzug wig, but it was a composite character wig, which was amazing.
Did that? Oh, go ahead, Charlie.
Oh no, you go ahead, Marcus. It's okay.
Did that kind of make it easier or harder to sink your teeth into Alice? Because, you know, as you mentioned, everyone else, they could go back and look at clips like, oh, this is how she talked, this is how she walked. Well, you couldn't do that.
I couldn't do that, but, you know, I've been lucky in that with the Marcia Clark of it all and the Nicole Wallace, we were talking about that before we were on air here. You know, I have played real people, so I've had that experience, and I do know how wonderful it can be, because I think, Marcus, you and I probably talked about this very thing before, which is I really like a blueprint. I feel much more liberated and free when I know what the boundaries are. I know this is not like a shrink session, but I feel that way in life, but also in my work. I really like to know what the parameters are, because then I feel the most free to be bolder with my choices, I guess. But with this, it had its other benefits, which is, yes, I wasn't able to sort of immerse myself in this just tombs and tombs of research that these other women were able to do. But on the other hand, I got to kind of just do this thing that I thought was fundamentally true about the character, which is that she was incredibly open and innocent and willing and kind. And we all know that's not, those are not the adjectives you'd use to describe me. No, I'm just kidding. But it was something that felt really new, something I hadn't really played before. And so although I didn't get to play an iconic historical figure, I got to play someone that for me was uncharted territory, which was really nice. And I got to trip out on a lot of drugs and be drunk, and which is really fun. You know what I mean?
I would not know of such things.
No, I don't. I've never had the experience. I mean, I had to totally invent it, because please.
Well, one of the things that I find so interesting about this is, is this is such a pivotal moment in history that's being depicted, but it's not one that is very well known to a lot of people. And I'm curious as to whether you were familiar with the events that surrounded the Equal Rights Amendment prior to becoming a part of this project.
I was embarrassingly not at all familiar with it, beyond what I had learned in a sort of cursory way, or rather beyond what I remembered from my high school experience. I did not go to college, and I didn't make this a field of study of mine. And, you know, I think I've been really lucky in that I've worked for people who have always been sort of really focused on female-centric stories, and so I was really sort of not embarrassingly ignorant to a lot of what the pursuit was for the movement. And I'm one of those people, and I won't name any names, but there is one other cast member I know that, and I will not reveal who also didn't know that the ERA had not passed when we started this. I was like, wait, what? We didn't, but wait, what? And then I felt totally embarrassed, but then there was one other person who was like, So that was comforting. But so, listen, it's always really wonderful to be part of something that not only can educate an audience, a wide audience, but also, I mean, one of the very, very special things about getting to do this for a living is opportunity to learn and to really put yourself into another person's shoes and really imagine what life would be like outside of your own worldview. And so that was very, very exciting. And it was an excellent education and helped me to be much more informed. Don't ask me any pertinent dates or questions information because I won't be able to answer them right now. I would have if we were talking like right when we were filming. I'd been like, well, that was Blasey Blue versus Blasey Blue, and that was an article. But right now, I'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. There's a fuzzy connection. Click, and I'd hang up.
Watching the scene back with Alice's disastrous on-camera interview when the reporter kind of fires back, like, what the polls say the opposite of what you're saying. Where are you getting your information? It just feels so apt to today, like with all the fake news stories that are going on. What was your reaction to that scene? It was really the first time we saw Alice be so vulnerable on camera.
Yeah, that scene actually went through several iterations. Originally, we shot episode 8 last. So we shot 7 and 9 first, and 8 was the final thing that we shot of the series, which was both great and also awful because we were all so tired. But I think it helped contribute to an ability to be out of my mind for most of the episode. But originally that scene was Alice speaking on the floor of the convention and making that speech in the room. And the weight and the pressure of it was so enormous. And she, the microphone makes that horrible noise and she was all this stuff. And I thought it was very powerful. But because we were shooting, because episode 8 came last, we were running out of days. It was really, so they had to kind of compress it. And at first I was very disheartened about it because I really thought, I don't know how we're going to create that same sense of pressure for her. But then as we were talking about it, Dottie and I, we did finally land on this thing where there had to be a camera. Originally, there wasn't a camera. There were all these elements that we worked on to help have that happen. But the truth of the matter is, it's easier to see now when I think back about it than it felt in the moment when I was thinking about how I was going to play this. If I didn't have all that, the truth is, Alice was so out of her element and was so deeply out of her comfort zone that it would have taken very, very little to cause her to have such upset about it. And having Melanie Linsky's character, Rosemary, who was so judgmental and watching her and knowing that Phyllis was going to see it because she'd be watching it on television was just so humiliating for her. And I think, as I say in that longer scene with Julie White at the bar right before I take that pill, Phyllis endowing you with any kind of power or her thinking that I could do something and speak for the movement, or the counter movement rather, our movement, and her confidence that I could do so made me want to do it and succeed at it so much. And the thought of disappointing her, I don't think Alice really knew who she was without Phyllis looking at her and saying, who you are is you're my best friend, and that's who you are in the world. And that was a real point of pride for Alice. And it wasn't until she sort of stepped outside of the cocoon of that relationship that she realized that maybe some of the things that she was being told were not only accurate, but were very skewed. And certainly the moment where are you getting your information from, and her literally being bewildered that the information she had from Phyllis wasn't the information that was factual. It had never occurred to her that what Phyllis would be saying would be some sort of rhetoric that was just to serve their movement, and it wasn't actual fact. And, I do think obviously this has such reverberations of what we're dealing with now in terms of, if you only watch Fox News or if you only watch MSNBC, you are getting news and information that's directed directly at your particular point of view. And if you don't feel the need to vet it, you are liable to be going around and talking to some people and espousing some shit that just isn't true. So I thought it was a kind of powerful opportunity to draw a correlation between where we were then and where we are now and how we got here. A lot of those same women are, responsible. Mobilizing the housewives was a very successful move for the Republican Party, for sure, for conservative movement, for sure.
So what's interesting, another sort of interesting parallel to, everything that's going on right now is it seems like, right now there's is a very pivotal moment for activists, whether it be, on things like Black Lives Matter or voting reform or the women's movement. We saw the ERA has finally achieved the amount of states it needs to ratify.
But the time's run out, right? Yeah.
Right here in my in my Commonwealth of Virginia, we did that. But I'm curious: is what lessons do you hope modern activists take from seeing this project?
Oh my God, what a great question. Gosh, I think some of the things that are the same, I think you would never want any sort of activism to become totally institutionalized. I feel like part of what is magical about it is watching people build something from the ground up and have just swells and swells of people join the movement. The minute it starts to become it just then starts to look like some traditional institution, and then it starts to feel like it loses its, not its potency necessarily, but its authenticity. So I kind of like the parallel that, there hasn't been that, obviously some of these movements that you were mentioning, of course, have associations with things that have been more institutionalized and have become larger, not brands, but larger movements that have hierarchies in this way that is much less to do with the grassroots. And I think that's where things start to get a little complicated. So I don't know. I think very much like what was happening with the Eagle Forum, and as well as the feminist movement, is it was happening in someone's living room, happening in someone's basement, and then it grew from there and became this absolutely nationwide topic and event. It's just pretty wild, and I think that's a very, very powerful thing, because what you really start to see is power to the people, and you start to see what the constituents want, rather than the political movers and shakers who are trying to get things done for their own personal aggrandizement or benefit. So I don't know. I wish I were more of an activist. That's what I wish.
I was thinking today, of all the actors out there, it must be on their bucket list to one day work with Cate Blanchett. And you've worked with her, I think, 3 times now. Carol, yeah. Ocean's 8, and now Mrs. America. Give us a sneak peek of what your working relationship is with the great Cate Blanchett.
Yeah, the great Cate, as I like to call her. My working experience with her right from the jump in Carol was so, she's an incredibly spontaneous, present, electrifying being. She just is. But the one thing people don't, I think, know about her, although I've tried to spread it around as much as possible, is that she is so much fun. She is so funny. She has this elegance and this real formidable presence. And that is a part of her too. But she's a goon. She is such a goony-goon, and we laugh, and the faces that we, I was making fun of her all the time about, she wore these teeth as Phyllis, and, saying Phyllis Schlafly isn't exactly easy to do, but when you've got those teeth in, and so I was just like, my name's Phyllis Schlafly, we have a really, really good time working together. We really make each other laugh, and I keep asking Davi to please send me some file of just all the takes I ruined laughing with her, and with Melanie Linsky as well. But Cate is, and the other thing I think that's really amazing about her is that she is she's an incredibly generous actor and producer. It was just as important to her that Alice have a full breadth of story that it was for her to have her Phyllis's story be what it was. It was very, very important to her, vitally important. She felt very protective of my storyline and was incredibly dedicated. We would send each other texts back and forth regarding certain pages that had come out. And on the episode that was Alice's episode that Cate has, 2 scenes in, and she was talking to me about my scenes, and did I feel I needed something more here? And it was all in the spirit of making sure that I had an experience doing this show that felt complete, and that the character had that was very important to her, and she was like that with everybody and everybody's stuff. And actors aren't always like that. People really want all the delicious cake for themselves, and I think Cate really isn't like that, which is annoying, because she's tall, she's beautiful, she's got that accent, she's really talented, she's got a couple Oscars, now she's going to win an Emmy. I've had enough, honestly. It's like enough already. Okay, Cate, sit down, relax, it's all good. I don't know, I think it's all pretty irritating. Just kidding. I love her. I hope that's evident what I'm saying. I mean, I think it's a badge of honor to have worked with her as many times as I have, and I don't take the privilege and the experience lightly at all. It's a very, very special thing.
You know, speaking of you know, getting to work, you know, you got to act alongside Cate Blanchett for most of this, but you know, this series has such an amazing cast, and I almost felt kind of felt bad for both you and Cate that you didn't get to interact with the other cast members or the characters themselves, which are you know, formidable in their own right. You did have minimal interaction with Rose Byrne as Gloria Steinem and Margot Martindale as Belle Abzug, but I'm curious if there was an actor or a character from the pro ERA side of the cast that you wish you could have had more interaction with.
Oh my God. I mean, Melanie, Cate, and I would sit around sometimes and be like, do you think they're having like a lot of fun over there? Because like, we're just over here baking pies and, I don't know, typing shit up and mailing things, and we're probably like smoking and hanging out and doing, so we were really jealous of them. But I think maybe Tracy, maybe Betty Friedan. I think it would have been really kind of interesting to see Alice interact with Betty Friedan. And it's also just, I'm so worshipful of Tracy, and I think she's so incredible, and she's so incredible in this, and she's such a wonderful person. She was one of those, you know, for all those people that mostly know her as an extraordinarily hilarious comedian, she's a wonderful actress, and she's a wonderful person. She's a very deep, thoughtful person who I became lovely friends with. And so I would have liked that. But the truth is, I would have liked to have been over there a lot. They were smoking, they were hanging out, they were not shaving their arm, they were doing some really good stuff. And we were just a little bit, it was just a little quieter over where we were, you know? And when they were off, the main thing that was hard was that, like, when the Eagle Forum gals, when we were all off, it was because the feminists were working the next day. So we couldn't like commingle that night because they all had to get up. And so it was always like annoying. It was like, oh God, I'm off tomorrow. And like, no, I'm working. It's like, oh God. You know, so that part was sort of frustrating, but it's a very, very champagne problem to have, of like, which amazing actress you get to have dinner with this night versus the night when you don't get to do that. It's pretty low on the totem pole of problems.
Well, looking forward, Sarah, you have American Horror Story 10, you have the Nurse Ratched series, you have Linda Tripp in American Crime Story. How do you sleep at night?
Well, Marcus, Ratched is done and in the can and comes out in September, and I have seen it, and that was, you know, I don't watch my work. This is a real, since OJ, I have not watched my work, but I had to watch all of Ratched because I'm executive producer on it, and Ryan was kind enough to let me weigh in with notes and thoughts, and so I had to really kind of like do that. So I did it, and that was a very, you know, I finished Ratched 36 hours before I flew to do Mrs. America. So it was a little bit of a dizzying thing to go from post-World War II into the 70s, and to be playing such a wildly different character from Mildred Ratched to Alice McRae was just a very dizzying sort of thing. Hard to get my feet under me at first. So that was a little bit overwhelming. And the Linda Tripp, you know, we were in Horror Story, Linda Tripp, all that stuff. We were about to start when COVID shut everything down. And I had just done a camera test with my Linda look, which was very exciting and totally scary, but mostly exciting. And so, you know, I've gotten more sleep than I might normally because of our current state. But when and if we are allowed to go back to work, then I won't be sleeping very much at all. But again, a very, very, very bubbly champagne problem to be tired from getting to work. On the Linda Tripp stuff, it's some of the best writing I've ever read, and the story is incredibly compelling, and she's a very, very interesting woman. So I'm looking forward to inhabiting that lady's body, being psyche for a while. I just really walked into it there, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Yeah, yes, we do. We definitely do. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. We wish you all the best this Emmy season. And to all our viewers, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel to get our latest content, And don't forget to go to goldderby.com and use the Gold Derby app to make your predictions and see if you can outsmart the top prognosticators in Hollywood. Thanks so much, Sarah.
You can't do it. They can't do it. They can try. They should try.